The murder of Brianna Ghey is a haunting case that shocked the United Kingdom in 2023. This tragic event happened in the small village of Colchith, near Warrington, Cheshire, England, where 16-year-old transgender girl Brianna Ghey was brutally killed by two 15-year-old classmates, Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe. The crime, marked by its premeditation, cruelty, and the young ages of the perpetrators, drew widespread attention and concern. The murder was carefully planned and extremely violent, sending shockwaves across the country and highlighting pressing issues like youth violence, mental health, and the safety of transgender individuals. Brianna Ghey was born in 2006 and grew up in Birchwood, a neighborhood near Warrington. From a young age, she was described as bright, caring, and full of life. Brianna began her transition as a teenager, a process that was supported by her family and friends. Her transition was a significant aspect of her identity, and she lived openly as a girl at Birchwood Community High School. Even though Brianna's family supported her, she still faced problems at school. She was bullied and harassed because she was transgender, which hurt her mental health. But Brianna was strong and maintained close friendships and family relationships. She was remembered as someone who loved doing makeup, fashion, and being on social media. Brianna used platforms like TikTok to express herself and connect with others, giving a glimpse into the life of a teenager, figuring out who she was in a world that wasn't always kind. The two teenagers who murdered Brianna, Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe, were both 15 years old when they committed the crime. They were classmates of Brianna at Birchwood Community High School, but their relationship with her was complicated and ultimately led to her death. Both teenagers were very smart, but they had a disturbing interest in violence, torture, and death that led them to carefully plan their crime. The duo's interest in violence was not a recent development. Evidence from their trial showed that they had been thinking about murder and torture for a long time. They often discussed their violent ideas and even made a list of people they wanted to target. Scarlett, aged 14 at the time, downloaded a Tor internet browser app to access red rooms on the dark web, where she watched videos of real people being tortured and murdered. She developed an interest in serial killers, taking notes on their methods, and admitted to enjoying dark fantasies about killing and torture. They compiled a kill list of 4 others they intended to harm, until Brianna had the misfortune of being befriended by Scarlett, with whom she quickly became obsessed. Scarlett told Ratcliffe that she wanted to stab Brianna, saying, "Just because it's fun, I want to see the pure horror on her face and hear her scream." Brianna Ghey's murder was not a sudden act. Their plan to murder Brianna was detailed and disturbing, with the two teenagers exchanging messages and handwritten notes about their intentions. In a handwritten note found in Jenkinson's bedroom titled February 11th, 2023, Target, Brianna Ghey, the two outlined their plan to trick Brianna into going to a quiet area in Colchith Linear Park, where they would carry out the murder. The note clearly listed the steps they would follow: meeting at a specific spot, walking to the park, and using a secret word to start the attack. Scarlett would stab Brianna in the stomach, while Ratcliffe would stab her in the back. The plan also included details on how to dispose of the body, showing that they had thought everything out carefully and deliberately, which made it even more frightening. In addition to the handwritten note, the teenagers exchanged text messages that further illustrated their intent. Scarlett expressed excitement about the upcoming murder, while Ratcliffe was responsible for procuring the murder weapon, a hunting knife. Their communication showed they were both excited about what they were going to do, with Ratcliffe even making disturbing comments about wanting to see how Brianna would react to the attack. On the morning of February 11th, 2023, Brianna was unaware of the deadly trap that had been set for her. Brianna Ghey got a message from Scarlett Jenkinson telling her to take a bus to Colchith Library that afternoon. At 12:45 p.m., a camera caught Brianna leaving her house in Birchwood. She texted her mom saying she was meeting Scarlett. Brianna followed Scarlett's directions and took a bus to the library, where CCTV footage shows her getting on the bus to meet the pair and looking at her phone when she sent her mother a message saying, "I'm on the bus by myself. I'm scared." "That's well good," her mother replied. She told the jury she was really proud of her, as she didn't go out much because of her anxiety, but doesn't think her daughter ever read the message. At 1:53 p.m., Brianna met Scarlett Jenkinson and Jenkinson's friend, Eddie Ratcliffe, at the bus stop outside the local library. Brianna and Ratcliffe had not met before and would barely exchange a word for the next hour. They were last seen on camera walking towards Colchith Linear Park, where multiple eyewitnesses saw them walking together. Exchanging messages on Snapchat, Brianna, whom Scarlett had lured under the impression that they were going to take drugs, sent a message to Scarlett at 2:15 p.m. Scarlett, posing as a fake dealer on Snapchat, exchanged messages with herself arranging meeting plans. Evidence from her digital devices revealed a fake Snapchat account, which she used to message a fake dealer called Nathan. She sent him messages saying, "We are here now and come and meet us." Soon, Brianna began to grow suspicious. At 2:30 p.m., she messaged another friend saying, "Scarlett is so weird girl. I think she's pretending to have a dealer, sick." At 2:31 p.m., Scarlett replied to herself as the fake dealer saying, "Sorry mate, almost there. 5 mins, 10 mins tops." Afterwards, Brianna was brutally attacked with a hunting knife, stabbed over 28 times mainly on her head, neck, and chest. At 3:06 p.m., Brianna's phone sent a message to Scarlett, "Girl, where are you?" But the prosecution later revealed that it was Scarlett who sent this message, trying to establish an alibi for herself. Several seconds later, Scarlett deleted a chat on Snapchat. She would later tell the police that Brianna had disappeared with a lad from Manchester. Scarlett and Ratcliffe were spotted from a distance by a woman walking her dog with her husband in the park. After realizing they had been noticed, the murderers fled the scene, with Ratcliffe wiping what appeared to be blood from his hands, as captured on CCTV footage. The pair retraced their path out of the woods, dumping Brianna's phone in a drain near Jenkinson's home. At 3:13 p.m., the woman called 999 and asked for police and an ambulance, reporting that someone had been attacked and she had seen people running away. The couple then discovered Brianna's body, face down and bleeding heavily. At 4:02 p.m., Brianna was pronounced dead by paramedics at the scene. Following the murder, Scarlett and Ratcliffe attempted to cover their tracks by separating and returning to their respective homes, where they continued to communicate via text messages. Meanwhile, Ratcliffe conducted online searches related to avoiding detection and penalties for withholding information. His internet history revealed that he was researching legal consequences and measures to protect witnesses, indicating a clear awareness of the severity of their actions. The day after the murder, Scarlett sent a message to Brianna's phone, feigning concern and asking if she was okay. She referenced the news of a teenage girl being killed in the park, further attempting to establish a false narrative. This message was particularly egregious, as Scarlett knew all along that she had left Brianna for dead. After Brianna was named as the victim the following day, Scarlett posted a tribute to her online. This post was another attempt to deceive and manipulate, as Jenkinson pretended to be a grieving friend while actually being the perpetrator of the crime. However, these attempts to mislead authorities were unsuccessful, as the evidence against the two teenagers was overwhelming. The investigation into Brianna Ghey's murder was swift and thorough. The Cheshire Constabulary led the inquiry, which quickly focused on Jenkinson and Ratcliffe due to the digital evidence linking them to the crime. On February 12, 2023, Just one day after the murder, both teenagers were arrested at their homes.
You ready?
Yeah.
Eddie, you're locked up suspicion of murder, alright? You don't have to say anything, but you may harm you eventually don't mention when questioned. So you later line in court, and if you do say evidence, do you understand?
Yeah, well, let's
Yeah.
unlock these.
I can't explain everything.
No, listen.
Right, listen.
Do it all on interview, alright? You're going to take it to the wrong corner, you'll be interviewed about it, they'll ask you questions, alright?
Yeah.
Scarlett, this is what I've got to say.
Yeah.
At this moment, because the information I have received, you are under arrest on suspicion of murder. Obviously you are under caution, so anything you say is getting recorded.
What
Okay?
if maybe a suspect is because like I was the last person seen her, or how come I'm a suspect?
Pardon?
How come I'm a suspect?
How come you're a suspect?
Because I'm the last person that's seen her, is it?
I don't know. All the information I've received is you are a suspect, okay, for the murder.
Yeah.
During the search of Jenkinson's bedroom, police discovered the handwritten notes detailing the murder plan, as well as other disturbing documents that referenced infamous serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and Richard Ramirez. The digital evidence was equally damning. Text messages and social media interactions between the two teenagers revealed their planning and their attempts to cover up the crime. DNA evidence also linked both Jenkinson and Ratcliffe to the scene of the murder, with their DNA found on bottles left in the park. Following their arrests, both Jenkinson and Ratcliffe were charged with the murder of Brianna Ghey. The case against them was strong, with the prosecution presenting a detailed narrative of how the crime was planned and executed. The evidence of their premeditation and the brutality of the attack left little room for doubt regarding their guilt. The trial of Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe began in November 2023 at Manchester Crown Court. Due to the ages of the defendants, reporting restrictions were initially in place, preventing the public from knowing their identities. During the trial, they were referred to as Girl X and Boy Y. While in custody, Jenkinson was found to have traits of autism and ADHD. Ratcliffe was diagnosed after arrest as autistic and as having selective mutism, which means he can only speak to his mother. Reasonable accommodations were made for both defendants during the trial. Due to his selective mutism, Ratcliffe was allowed to communicate with the court by typing on a computer. Both defendants were given the option to participate in the trial via video link, rather than in person. The jury was also told that both Jenkinson and Ratcliffe may react or speak differently during the trial because of their diagnoses. The prosecution, led by Brianna Ghey, presented a compelling case. The evidence included the handwritten notes found in Jenkinson's bedroom, the digital communications between the two teenagers, and the testimony of witnesses who had seen the events unfold. The prosecution also highlighted the calculated nature of the crime, describing it as a premeditated and brutal murder. One of the key pieces of evidence was the text message that Brianna had sent to her mother on the day of the murder, expressing her fear. This message, combined with the detailed murder plan found in Jenkinson's possession, painted a picture of a young girl who had been lured into a deadly trap by people she thought were her friends. Throughout the trial, both Jenkinson and Ratcliffe attempted to shift the blame onto each other. Jenkinson claimed that Ratcliffe had been the one to stab Brianna, while Ratcliffe argued that Jenkinson was the mastermind behind the attack. However, the evidence presented by the prosecution made it clear that both were equally complicit in the murder. The trial also revealed the disturbing psychological profiles of the two defendants. Both were described as having a fascination with violence, with Jenkinson's interest in serial killers being particularly concerning. The court heard that she had researched notorious murderers and had compiled a list of people she wanted to kill, with Brianna being the first on that list. The defense argued that the teenager's mental health issues, including autism and ADHD, should be considered in determining their culpability. However, the prosecution countered that these conditions did not excuse the premeditation and brutality of the crime. The jury was asked to consider the overwhelming evidence of planning and intent, which left little room for doubt about the defendant's guilt. After a 3-week trial concluding on December 20th, 2023, the jury found Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe guilty of murdering Brianna Ghey. The verdict was a direct result of the clear and compelling evidence presented by the prosecution. The jury concluded that the murder was a premeditated and vicious act carried out by 2 teenagers who had harbored violent fantasies and meticulously planned the crime. Throughout the proceedings, the court heard how Brianna was lured to her death by individuals she considered friends, making the crime all the more tragic. The details of the case left a lasting impact on those who followed the trial, highlighting the dangers posed by young individuals with deep-seated violent tendencies. Following the guilty verdict, the court proceeded to the sentencing phase. The judge, considering the severity and premeditated nature of the crime, prepared to impose a sentence that would reflect the gravity of the act. On February 2, 2024, the sentencing hearing was held at Manchester Crown Court. Prior to the hearing, the judge determined that there was a strong public interest in fully reporting the exceptional case, allowing the names of the 2 teenagers to be publicly released. Updated psychiatric assessments revealed that Jenkinson has antisocial personality disorder rather than autism, and Ratcliffe has a mild form of autism spectrum disorder. Jenkinson was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 22 years, and Ratcliffe received a life sentence with a minimum term of 20 years. Jenkinson will be eligible for parole consideration on January 25, 2044, and Ratcliffe will be eligible for parole consideration on January 25, 2042.
Scarlett Jenkinson, for the murder of Brianna Ghey, you will be detained at His Majesty's pleasure. I set the minimum term at 22 years, less the 352 days that you have spent on remand. Eddie Ratcliffe, for the murder of Brianna Ghey, you will be detained at His Majesty's pleasure. I set the minimum term at 20 years, less the 352 days that you have spent on remand. Please take the defendants to the cells, and their legal teams will come and see them before they go to begin their sentences.
Jenkinson made no reaction as she was told she must serve more than 2 decades behind bars today. She sat blinking occasionally as she was addressed by the judge and briefly asked a question of her intermediary, or approved adult, sat beside her in the dock. Her mother sat to her right in the public gallery, dabbed tears from her eyes with tissue. Ratcliffe, also seated and looking directly in front of him, made no visible reaction as he was sentenced. Speaking outside the Manchester Crown Court after the verdicts were issued, Esther Ghey, the mother of the victim, and Peter Spooner, the father, gave statements to the media expressing their grief and mourning the loss of their daughter. Despite remarking that the defendant seemed remorseless for the killing, Esther Ghey urged the public to show empathy for the families of the defendants. Brianna Ghey's funeral was held at St. Elphin's Church, Warrington, on the 15th of March, 2023. Hundreds of mourners were joined by local dignitaries. Candlelight vigils were held across the United Kingdom and in Dublin, Ireland, in the week after Brianna's death. The attendance for many of these vigils numbered in the hundreds to thousands. Scarlett Jenkinson is being held at Adelbeck Secure Children's Home in Leeds, West Yorkshire, and is expected to stay there until she is 18 years old. While in the secure unit, Jenkinson was found to have created another kill list targeting staff members who were caring for her, raising further concerns about her behavior and mental state. Psychiatrists have diagnosed her with severe conduct dissocial disorder, characterized by a lack of pro-social emotions, though they noted that she was fully aware that her actions were wrong. Given the severity of her crimes and her ongoing dangerous behavior, Jenkinson is likely to remain in custody for many years.